The Chiefs are headed to New Orleans to meet the Philadelphia Eagles for the second time in 3 seasons. And this game will be in the Superdome in New Orleans, of course. Very excited. I think all of Chiefs Kingdom very excited about the game and the potential of obviously the three-peat possibly going down in New Orleans, as well as on the other side, you got Jalen Hurts trying to prove himself as a quarterback in this league and be seen with the elite of, like the Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrows, and be maybe that fifth guy that we thought maybe Herbert was going to be. And so a huge moment to try to prove himself, as well as, Nick Sirianni as a coach and all that good stuff. So very interesting game storyline wise heading in, I think, although a lot of America, I think, outside of Philly and right here in Kansas City may think otherwise. We're going to get into all of that. We're going to talk about the Bills game heavily with EDJ coming up. So excited to have him back on the podcast and getting ready for Super Bowl 59. Obviously couldn't be more excited. So make sure you smash that subscribe button and hit that bell to stay notified when I post. Gonna have film breakdowns coming, as well as at least one more podcast coming your way. And I'm thinking of maybe doing something going live surrounding the Super Bowl, maybe before or after the game. I will keep you guys posted though. But make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that bell to know whenever I do go live or post something as well. Hit the like button on the video too if you're enjoying the podcast, and let's get in this conversation with EDJ. EDJ, welcome back to the Papa Schro Knows podcast, man.
It's good to be back, and I think good to be back is an understatement. I mean, here we are again. That's 3 in a row, right? 3 Super Bowls in a row. I'm just making sure that I can count.
This would be the 3rd consecutive Super Bowl for the Kansas City Chiefs.
So you mean the worst team in the league made another Super Bowl?
The worst 15-2 team of all time
made their 3rd straight Super Bowl after being
2, 3
the worst team in football last year too.
I do believe so.
That's got to be a record. And the worst team in the league they won the Super Bowl last year, didn't they?
They did win the Super Bowl last year.
And then the year before that,
they also won the Super Bowl.
And now they have a chance to do it again.
They have another chance to do it.
And the NFL sucks. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's wild. It's wild to think that a team who at one point had Tyler Thigpen as the hopeful for a quarterback, Brody Croyle, Tyler Palco, Matt Castle, even though Matt Castle was the only quarterback outside of Alex Smith. Let that sing in verse out. Outside of Alex Smith, Matt Castle was the only Chiefs quarterback taking the playoffs in that run. It's wild, isn't it?
That is wild. I kind of forgot.
They got smoked by the Ravens who went on to win the Super Bowl that year. But, it's that's hard to remember is the fact that the Chiefs only had 3 quarterbacks who have taken to the playoffs, and it was a span of each, 4 or 5 years before the quarterbacks. I mean, Alex Smith had his own successes in his own right. I think Alex Smith is wildly down-talked in Chiefs history. I don't think we'd be where we are today without him being the quarterback for so many years.
I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree that Alex Smith he's the foundation.
Right.
He's the quarterback that built the foundation of where this team is and who this team is now. And Andy Reid. And I think that also taught Andy Reid too, that he built an offense around Alex Smith, right? And he now, has built an offense around Patrick Mahomes. So I think Alex Smith might also be the key to teaching Andy a little bit of how to become the coach that he has become. Because if you look at in Philly, and look, I was a child, so I'm not going to act like I have some crazy insight to this or anything, but
Right.
Like McNabb couldn't get him over the hump, right? And
Right.
All of these guys, even Vic when he was there, Vic was great, but it's not like we thought that team was going to win a Super Bowl necessarily.
Toward the end of his career,
Exactly. So, I think that a lot of that taught Andy, okay, let me try this. Let me try to just build an offense around a quarterback and see how that works. And, I have pretty good success. I just can't quite, get over the proverbial hump.
Mhm.
And now let's go get this guy that everyone says needs so much work. I'll build an offense specifically around him because we love all of his intangibles. He just knows, what to do, when to do it. I think Patrick Mahomes essentially has it. You know what I mean? We don't know what it is, but you either have it or you don't. And in these moments that I was literally just recording a film breakdown, and one of those things where it's like there was one on the first drive where it's like I don't know if I would have thrown that, but Mahomes threads the needle and it's the perfect pass to throw. It's the perfect, Hollywood Brown was able to get behind the second level of the defense and, had a nice 15-yard gain. It was from the opening drive. But it's just like, Pat has it, he may not have the best footwork. He may not have the best throwing motion, but, he was the guy that was like, you see a play or two and you're like, all right, we can figure out how to win with that guy.
Well, yeah, I think you nailed it on the head. He has it. I mean, and I texted. We were talking back and forth because you were at the game, obviously. But I said to you at halftime, "Are you nervous?" Right? I don't think I said, "Are you nervous?" I said, "How's it feeling?" And you said, "It feels good." And I felt the same way, but I think it's easy to feel that way when you have the guy that just has it. I mean, it was Jordan-esque, and that's such an overused term for him now. But to have two rushing touchdowns in a year where he didn't really use his feet a whole lot, and especially on design runs, we didn't see any of those all year. And Andy had what, four of them in the game against the
Yeah,
Bills. I mean, it's chestnut checkers, and we talk about it all the time, and media outlets talk about that all the time. The Chiefs staff is just smarter than other staffs, and that sounds like a homerish thing to say, but it's blatantly obvious when you go into the regular season and you watch the film breakdowns, and you do your film breakdowns very well, by the way,
thank you.
but it just shows how vanilla the playbook is. And from week 1 to week 13, it's different. And then from week 13 to the conference championship, that's not even the same team. It,
Absolutely not. I think that's why it just breaks everybody. Everybody just is like,
Mhm.
who is this team? And it's like the Bills defense. One of the defenders said they were, throwing plays at us we hadn't seen. They weren't in our film breakdowns. They weren't in our film studies. They weren't in, we didn't see them at all. And that's the thing because I saw something where, there was a reply to a tweet of, how the Chiefs aren't playing at full strength all season long, right? And I think that we understand that and we sound arrogant as hell as Chiefs fans because just like you said, it feels like our staff is just better than yours. They're smarter. And somebody had commented to it and said, if you think that the Chiefs are playing down to all their opponents, like I got a bridge to sell you. And it's like, I don't think any of us think that. I think that they're going out there and playing 110%, but they're also using 5 to 10% of the playbook. That's the problem. And then all of a sudden it's like those like full house pistol formations that they got going on right now where all of a sudden we saw a bunch of that and they were running out of that and the misdirection and sometimes they get a little too cute and I hope we don't see too much of that in the Super Bowl because I think we got a little bit of that from the Bills game, but there's moments where it's like all these guys are moving this way, but really the offensive line is all moving this way. And here comes Kareem Hunt barreling down right up the middle, and everybody's went every which way. And they're like, oh, what the hell? They're just running right up the middle.
There we go. Oh, well, I even noticed a little old fashioned, basically wishbone offense for a couple plays there in those one of the drives where he literally just had, like you said, three guys in the backfield and handed off, turn around. So and the Chiefs ran that what, zero times in the regular season. I didn't see it, and I watch every game. Trust me. Um, Sean McDermott, man. I mean,
The very moment I knew this was the same Bills team as every other year was when they challenged that Xavier Worthy play. Because
okay,
not only did they
uh,
challenge a play after a play already happened, I just want to let everybody know that thinks this is a conspiracy. Let's talk about the Bills and some of the things that happened there. Not only did they do that, Two, they ruled it a catch, which we also saw Dalton Schultz get the same exact catch in the divisional game where the ball hit the ground, but it didn't move,
Mhm.
so it's a catch. Apparently, that's a new rule. One of the dudes that sits behind me mentioned that to me during that whole play. So we saw that. So we knew that that was going to be a catch, anyways. Even if they got it right, say that gets overturned, right? There's a holding penalty that now will be accepted when we go back to it. And I thought, you screwed yourself either way, man. Like, what was the point of challenging that?
Well, and I don't know if people asked him about that after the game or not. Um, but it's just yeah, I didn't understand that. I saw him challenge it, and it was after the play had already been ran.
Yeah.
So, I know we get all the calls and the refs, why are we even showing up? But you can't do that. And I don't. And someone said, well, maybe it wasn't in real time, and we don't see everything on TV. You were there, and you said it was after the play.
I mean,
So
I will say, I didn't see when he threw the red flag or anything. It's not like I was just staring at McDermott during that or anything, but so I don't know. I mean, I've heard multiple people say he threw the flag before the play was ran, and I will say I'll give that the benefit of the doubt because it is obviously very loud in there.
right,
Although the Chiefs were on offense, so it's not as loud then.
right.
So I don't know. It's one of those things that it's like the delay of game they let you get away with every game. You probably run a
Okay,
play a second or two late.
here's the thing about the delay game that has been driving me crazy ever since it happened. If we'll just say if the Chiefs were not given that option, guess what they do? They call a timeout. They still had timeouts. It's a 1 second difference. So you're going to be upset that the refs gave them almost half a second to a full second when the Chiefs would have just called a timeout anyway in the first half when timeouts aren't necessarily that important as they are in the second half. Are you going to be really that upset? It's just confusing to me the things they try to come up with. It's just use your common sense. There's 1 second left between the game clock and the play clock. Okay, if the refs let everything run as normal, and granted, I never seen that before. So
Same. I had never seen that either.
but the Chiefs were going to call a timeout, so the penalty wouldn't have it applied to them anyway. I don't understand it. But back to McDermott here, you're running the ball 16 times in the third quarter. Look, and you guys were moving it decent, and holding the ball pretty well, but 16 times in the third quarter. Guess how many of those were to James Cook? Zero. Zero. You're one of the better running backs in the AFC, not necessarily football, but definitely the AFC. Zero handoffs to him. Well, why?
A
I,
guy that was averaging 6.5 yards per
and he
carry.
was really well. I mean, he was tough for us to stop, but the Bills just can't help themselves. They just can't.
Between that and the tush push, because the fact that they did not go away from that at some point, I mean, how many times did the Chiefs stuff it?
At least twice.
At least twice. I mean, there was I know a 2 point conversion. This was the best part of the game for me personally, just because it was funny in the crowd. So after they scored that touchdown, there was a couple of Bills fans, or like four or five of them in a row, a couple rows up from us, and they kept on yelling "and one" for the extra point. And I just kind of thought that's something I've never heard. Whatever, be obnoxious, cool. And they were all excited. So then we get the penalty, right? And the Bills come up and say, "Okay, we're from the 1 yard line. We're just gonna, touch push it in." And they go for it. The Chiefs stuff them. And I mean, immediately I yelled out, "And one, and one." And they all, we all laughed. They were actually super cool, and all the Bills fans were pretty cool that were there. But, how many times you got to run the same damn thing to be like, it's not working tonight?
Yeah, I would be really, I don't even know what you do if you're a Bills fan at this point. I really don't. I mean, and that's not a slight to them. I mean, they have the second best quarterback in football. I think he's shown that time and time again. Um, that's so frustrating when, and that organization has just been wrecked. Four straight Super Bowls, four straight losses. You lose, and then years later, you lose to a team that just finds a way to beat you every year in the playoffs. and it's only been a blowout one time. And now,
Well, and I think it goes to the fact that everybody buys in on this.
yeah,
I feel like, it's Chiefs fans, media surrounding the Chiefs. I know on my podcast all year long. And even last year, all year, the whole year, I was just like, I'm not worried. The only time I got worried was the Raiders lost. All of a sudden, it was like the Broncos could possibly win the division. And it was kind of like, okay, hold on. We're getting a little strayed away from where we need to be. But, uh, you know, I really have not been worried one time this season, and I know we've been winning. We've seen the Chiefs win, but at the same time, you hear all this talk of how bad this team is. Oh, they're barely winning games. Oh, look at only the Patriots and Raiders, and I think there's one other team in there that has had as many one-score games as them, and all their records combined, they have like 7 wins or 5 wins, whatever the hell it was, but. I think it just goes to show how good this team is. Like you're looking at it the wrong way because you're thinking that this team is bad when it's really no, they're gonna, just hang around the entire game. They're gonna beat you when it matters most. And I think there's still that team. And honestly, I can't stand them for that at the same time because even in these damn playoff games, like the Chiefs have a chance to go up by 2 scores to kick off the second half, march the ball down the field, and run it up on them. What do we see the offense do? They go out there, they struggle, and they punt. I think it was a 3-and-out. And it's just like they can, just as much as the Bills can't help themselves, the Chiefs can't help themselves but make it close. It's like Patrick Mahomes. I think it was I was rewatching the end of the Super Bowl from last year, and Tony Romo says Mahomes is so dangerous when he knows what he needs to do, and I'm just like, damn, you're so right because it's so frustrating when they're up by 7 or 10, and it's like, we can take this drive off. It's
yeah.
what it feels
It,
like.
and someone brought up a good point to me. Well, I don't know if it's a good point, but he said, Spagnola has the comfort of knowing that even if we let them score here, we're probably good. And that's a big comfort if you're a defense coordinator to know. It's the Brady Manning effect, Montana effect, Elway effect. Even if they score here, we're probably good. We'll figure out a way. Um, One instance that I wanted to talk about was obviously that 4th and inches or whatever you want to call it. We've talked about this, and obviously everyone decided that they're experts on measurements and stuff like that, and how the NFL needs the FIFA technology for offsides and things like that. Listen here, the ball's over here. It's not over here. When he is stopped, and there's 5 or 6 Chiefs already on him, his momentum is not moving. He's already falling backwards. The ball's over here. The line's right here. He doesn't get it. And I understand that, every part of his body was over the line. That's cool and all, but the ball wasn't. And if the ball's not over the line, guess what that means? That means it's not a first down.
You didn't get
So
it.
it and again, it falls back to, why is that your play call? Why?
Well, exactly. 100% because at that
Yeah.
point it hasn't worked all night.
Mm-mm.
And one of my things, like I said on the podcast on Friday, on the last podcast, but was that I don't know if people are thinking like it's the same, first down and a touchdown is two different things. The ball just has to break the plane for a touchdown, right? None of that ball just got to be past the line to gain. It has to be past it, and it doesn't have to be the whole ball, but you clearly see. I don't know how many times I've seen people posting pictures saying the proof is right here, and it's just like you're absolutely right. The proof that he did not get the first down is
Ball
right
is
in front of
right.
your eyes.
Right.
And my other thought was, okay, well, would it feel better if a robot told you, he didn't get it? Like, cool. I mean, if that's where we got to go with it, I guess. But he very obviously did not get the line to gain with the ball.
Well, it didn't help that, a few people were like, oh, well, I think he got it. I think he got it. I mean, it's all in the moment, right? And that's the emotions of the game, is everything's in that moment. And no matter what the call is in that big of a game and that big of a rivalry, if you really want to call it that, it's tough to make those calls. And I don't, condemn those refs. And I will say the refs had nothing to do with this game for the most part. They really had nothing to do with it. There were a couple of calls, that were missed here and there, but I've seen Chiefs games this year where I've said, gee, okay. But
Hmm.
um, the refs had nothing to do with this. It was bad play calling, and let's call a spade a spade. Josh Allen had the legacy drive in his hands. Call it the refs, call it bad play calling, call it what you will. 3 minutes left, three timeouts, fourth quarter. All you got to do is either score a touchdown and potentially, I mean, again, it's Patrick Mahomes, it's tough, potentially get the win, or tie the game, get it overtime, and see what happens.
I absolutely agree.
Guess what he did? Nothing. Again.
He dropped the ball.
It happened last year. It happened this year. The only time it didn't happen was in a 13-second game. That is the only time Josh Allen has had that killer mentality in him. One time. One time. I'm not saying Josh Allen played bad. He played great. And I'll go as far as saying it's not necessarily on Josh Allen. The Bills shouldn't have been in that situation.
I'll definitely say I don't think it's necessarily on Josh Allen whatsoever. I don't think he played great. I think he played good. I think that when
he definitely didn't play bad.
I don't know because okay, the only reason I'll say that is when it was time to be a passer, he couldn't get it done whatsoever. I mean, how many times did Josh Allen throw it directly into the hands of a Chief? And I don't know what's wrong with our secondary, but they cannot catch to save their lives. And whatever, good thing that they got a good pass rush. But it was those moments he did not show up. I don't think he can run for first downs. He can do whatever. But I think at the end of the day, James Cook is the guy that carried this team throughout the night.
Yeah, that's fair. But I think those first two passes were on the first three plays of the game. And again, he got extremely lucky. He fumbled the ball, four times?
Mm-hmm.
Or they had four fumbles total. I think Josh had three of them.
Yeah.
And he fell on all of them somehow.
They recovered every single one of them.
I just don't know. And I told you, and we were talking about this too, the Bills are one or two fumbles away and Patrick Mahomes fumble away from getting absolutely dog-walked. I mean, this isn't even a game. If the Chiefs score on that drive where Patrick Mahomes and I can't remember who it was, maybe it was Pacheco, I think, who they just had the miscommunication on. But the Chiefs score there, it's 21-6, I believe, at that point, or 21-10, I'm sorry, 21-10 at that point. You're telling me that the Bills were going to come back from another score and then make it 29-29? And let's say Josh Allen doesn't recover two of those. You're telling me the Chiefs aren't going to get a field goal or a touchdown off those? Especially how good the Chiefs offense looked for most of the night. I mean, the Bills, and that's the other annoying thing too, is that the Bills got very lucky in this game. Multiple times. And the Chiefs got lucky too, but that's football. But they got lucky multiple times to where this game was even remotely close. I mean,
I agree with you.
This game should have been it really should have.
I totally agree with you that the Bills were really lucky that they were even in it at one point because it just felt like they were trying to give the Chiefs the ball at times. And they spite themselves. I mean, it's on coaching again, absolutely. And, I'll use it as fuel as to diminish Josh Allen next year. But right now, I'll be honest and say that absolutely, this is 100% on coaching. I mean, even the defense, I don't think the defense was terrible for the Bills. I think, again, kind of goes back to what we were talking about. The Chiefs are just that good. In the moment when they need it the most, they are that good. And that was what I was worried most about. I was not impressed with Josh Allen in the divisional round against Baltimore. I was not very scared of this team going into this AFC Championship game. I mean, I just did not think that they looked very good. They let Baltimore come back and, almost tie the game in regulation. So, I mean, I just didn't see what there was to really worry about them other than kind of maybe the offense imploding on themselves type of thing.
Well, yeah, you nailed it on the head. They kind of showed you what was going to happen the week before against Baltimore. I mean, they got throwing it to Mark Andrews in the clutch isn't really a good idea. But,
not in 2025.
Well, it seems to be his career almost. I mean, the guy's had a lot of bad breaks with, game-winning touchdowns, but that's neither here nor there. But it was on Lamar, too. It wasn't the best throw in the world, but we won't get into that. But, they showed their hand the week before. He cannot coach when it matters. He just can't. And I'm not saying Harbaugh can. I'm not saying, Zach Tyler can. I'm not saying, I'm trying to think of other AFC contenders. I'm not saying D'Amico Ryans can. Obviously, he can't. But, he can't. It's so frustrating as a football fan. If I were in my Bills jersey or whatever you want to call it, I would want that guy gone. I mean, it's now 4 years in a row that you cannot beat the same damn team. You've played them more than anybody in the NFL the past, what, 3, 4 years? Because you play them every year in the regular season, and you
Yeah,
play them
they're
in the post.
it's basically almost like a divisional opponent
You
because you see them
know,
once in the regular season, see them once in
mm-hmm,
the postseason.
mm-hmm. It's just, how can you not beat this team? And I understand that there's luck involved in the 13th second game and yada yada yada, but you're still on the losing side of history
And
again.
but again, it's the buy-in, I think. I think the teams, I think the players, I think everybody legit buys in to downplay this team. I mean, when you look at the Chiefs last year, they went in or maybe it was I can't remember when, but I think it was last year where they went into every single game as underdogs, even the Super Bowl against the 49ers. And it's just okay, let's continue buying in, I guess, and I just don't really get it because it's like after last year, it kind of felt like, okay, everyone's going to be on the same page. This team is very good, and they may be sneaky good in the regular season and not really, look like the same team, but they're going to be that damn good when it comes January, February. And they've fallen right back into the same time loop, it feels like. I mean, we are right back where we were a year ago, or really 2 years ago at this point, playing the Eagles. And I just don't understand it because it's like, again, we sound like pretentious Chiefs fans all season long saying, I mean, go ahead, believe what you want, but this team is that good. I mean, we said it week one. Week one, we said it when the Baltimore Ravens lost the game, and Isaiah Likely muttered the words of, oh, if that's all they got, oh, when we see them in January, we're definitely going to beat them. Like, well, you guys didn't even get to the game. So, this team
Yeah,
is that damn good.
I was gonna say, well, how'd that work out for you? But it,
Worked out the same as it worked out for everybody else.
yeah, I don't know. It's tough, and at some point the Chiefs will not be here. At some point, and the annoying, well, not the annoying thing, the great thing for us, but the annoying thing for everyone else is Rashee Rice is back next year. Yeah, but Rashee Rice is Xavier Worthy. There's a lot of questions on who the Chiefs will bring back. I'll be interested to see what they do with that.
I assume Hollywood Brown will also be back just for the
I,
simple fact that he was on a 1 year prove it deal and he was hurt the entire year, unless there's some other team out there that is like, okay, here's a bunch of money, come play for us.
right, and I would assume you're probably right. But yeah, pay Nick Bolton. I don't think the Chiefs are willing to part ways with him. I think they are willing to part ways with Trey Smith. Unfortunately, I don't think he'll come back unless the Chiefs restructure some deals, which they have done before. Um, this could be Travis's last game.
I
And if
fully kind of think if the Chiefs win at least, I
right,
absolutely think this is his last game. You
well,
know what? Maybe I'll say that the other way around. If the Chiefs win, I think Kelce has maybe more of a chance. But I think if they lose this game, I think it's hard to go back to be like, okay, one, what do I have left to prove? I'm
right,
old. He's not moving the same. It's pretty obvious at this point. The last couple of years, we've really seen the downturn. I really think, and I was worried about this going into that Lions game, the first game last year, where I thought that hyperextended knee, that's the type of injury to age you like 5 years in the matter of a couple of months just because you're older, and
mhm,
that just never really goes away. And the way that they play, I mean, we talked about it, how, this team has played more football than any other team in the last 7 years, and like,
mhm,
way more.
yeah,
And so I don't know, to think to go back and start over rather as in, hey, maybe there's a chance we can pull off a four-peat, like that's probably going to be the thought of the locker room if they win this game is like, let's go do it again. I mean, it seems like this team has not lost any hunger, but I think also because they're all having a ton of fun.
yeah. I think you're 100% right. Um, I would be surprised if Travis comes back either way. I agree with you. He's already got 3 rings, like you said. He's the second most coveted receiver of passes in playoff history, um, behind Jerry Rice, which is wild. He's a tight end. He's that's the second most catches, touchdowns, everything. He's second in everything, I think, at this point, isn't he?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, it's just absurd to think, a guy who's in his mid 30s and a tight end is the second best ever of any receiving player in playoff history.
And I do
Uh,
believe him and Patrick Mahomes have the most touchdowns in postseason history.
uh-huh. Um, it, if he wins, I would find it very, very hard. If they win, rather, I would find it very, very hard for him to find any logical way to come back. He's got 4 rings. I think pretty much that would almost seal the debate of him being the best of all time. Um, I think there's only one record that will be super hard. Would have been super hard for him to get, even if he was 2 years younger. I think that's the overall yardage record. I mean, it was. I think it's still Gonzalez, isn't it, for tight ends of
By
all
tight
time?
ends. I will look this
Not
up
for the,
real quick.
but I think all time
Yeah.
it's somebody over him. I can't remember if it's Gonzalez or somebody else.
Yeah, it looks like Tony Gonzalez. Tony Gonzalez, 15,000. Jason Witten is number two at 13,000. And Travis Kelce at 12,100. So he's got about
Yeah,
900-yard difference between
yeah,
him and Witten and 2,000 yards between him and Gonzalez.
which is wild for a tight end to have 15,000 yards in his career. I mean, that just shows
Insane.
Tony Gonzalez was. But um, yeah, he just doesn't have any reason to. He, even if he does come back, but um,
He's also pretty far off on touchdowns, actually. He's
for all
fifth. He's fifth all time. Jimmy Graham is in front of Travis Kelce. It's kind of crazy to think about,
Jimmy
but
Graham,
it it goes Gates, Gonzalez, Gronkowski, Graham, Kelce.
that's interesting. I didn't know that. But I mean, Graham was great.
He
Jimmy Graham.
was. He was.
Um, but yeah, I mean, all in all, I think the Chiefs are in a good spot. Um, just real quickly, so we can make this a little bit shorter one, so you can have more people have their opinions and excitement for the Super Bowl. Um, quick take: what's your biggest fear for the Eagles, and what's your biggest confident for the Chiefs going in against the Eagles?
The run game, I think, is the biggest, and honestly, that goes both ways for the Chiefs and the Eagles. Obviously, the Eagles have an insane run game. I think for the defense, or for the offense, anyways, against the Eagles defense, I'm worried that they're going to go Pacheco too heavy. I think Kareem Hunt's obviously RB1 at this point. I don't think Pacheco is all the way 110% back from the injury, and I think it's hampered him. And I feel pretty confident with the passing game on both sides, offense and defense. It just depends on what kind of pressure that they can put on Jalen Hurts, I think. And, don't hurt yourself, Don't make any dumb mistakes. No big turnovers, I mean, stuff happens throughout the course of a game, but, make the right reads and take your check downs. I think we're looking at maybe a lower scoring version of what happened the first time.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be 38-35 again. I hope not. I won't be able to handle that. But you're right, and it's funny. I was watching the championship game, and I was like, "Man, Kareem Hunt's just old. I don't know, how much longer he can go." Found out I was like 3 months older than him, so I was like, "Well, never mind. He's pretty young." So, uh, but yeah, I think it's been tough to put Isaiah back because that was a hard injury he has to come back from. I mean,
Yeah.
he snapped, which I forget which bone he snapped, but it's a significant bone in his leg. He's a running back, so I don't think you'll see him back at 100%. I admire him for going out there wanting to play. But, I think Kareem Hunt is RB1. I think we saw that in the AFC Championship game. I think Andy realized that, hey, Isaiah's just not 100%. Kareem is, and he's been great all year. So let's just keep him. My biggest fear, I agree, is the run game. And we talked about this a little bit too. It's just A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith can have games, and those are two guys that are on the same team. So that worries me a little bit. Dallas Goedert can have a great game too. The Chiefs are very bite heavy. They bite on a lot of things they shouldn't. They're just aggressive. They're aggressive in nature, but they bite a lot. And if you have Saquon in the backfield and you have Jalen who can run too, but that play action game is going to be a worrisome spot for me. Josh Allen did a really good job of just throwing the ball over the field. I think we had a lot of problems with that. We've had problems with that all year, but Jalen Watson coming back has helped a lot. I think it's kind of secured the corner spot a little bit more, but that play action game will be a problem for me. And just the ability to, make sure that you're not in the same spot that you were, late in games. I know that the Chiefs can win late games and they don't need much time, but at some point, the other team's going to get the luck of the roll, So I think if the Chiefs can have a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter, I'll be much more okay. And I think the Chiefs will too. Then, if it's a 3-point game and the Eagles have the ball with 4 minutes left, because the Eagles will just keep the ball from you. They
Yeah,
have the
no, I absolutely agree. I would kind of agree with you to say I would like to at least see a 7-point lead, 5 minutes left in the game, no matter whether the Chiefs or Eagles have the ball, because that was one thing I thought when Allen got the ball back with 3 minutes left was, okay, it's only a 3-point lead. There's not a lot to, kind of shield if they score a touchdown. Like, I don't know if I 100% believe in this offense to just be able to drive the ball right down the field and score a touchdown as much as I have in the past. Although, I mean, my sentiment all year long is like, you never know with this team. I mean, I literally told a dude in the crowd that was just like, oh, we lost this game at the Broncos game. And I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know about this team. It's weird, but, I never lose faith in blocked field. Like, you can't make it up.
Well, I mean, the Chargers game too, the doink off the field goal post. I mean, that was crazy too. A backup kicker, was that our third kicker of the year or second? I think that was our second one of the year. It's just wild. The Chiefs wrote their own script this year. We'll put it that way. I mean, it was just a wild year. Final score. We'll get out of here. What's your prediction for that?
Oh, man, you are putting me on the spot. Okay, I might change this before the game, but let's go with 27. We'll go 27-21.
Okay.
We win on a touchdown late.
I don't hate it. I'm gonna go. I think it'll almost be identical to the Bills score. I'll go 31-28.
Okay.
I think the Chiefs will have the ball late, and I think they'll have the 3-point lead, something of that fashion. Um, I'll go 31-28. I'm sure it'll be 20-17 with 5 seconds left. That's just whatever. It's
Right.
cool. Have a bypass at 29, but um, it is what it is. But I think the Chiefs will win. I think it'll be close, but I think we'll have a three-peat.
I think it's inevitable at this point. Well, I appreciate you for joining the pod, man, and hopefully we'll see you again then before the Super Bowl, and we'll give like official predictions
Let's
when
do
we
it.
do. So I appreciate you for joining, man.
Good to
We'll
see
see
you,
you
buddy.
next time. Well, there you have it. We'll call it preliminary predictions for Super Bowl 59 between me and EDJ. Planning to hopefully have him on the podcast as well again before we lead up to the big game, and we'll probably break down the Super Bowl a little bit more in depth. And then the off season after that, me and EDJ kind of talked a little bit about some free agents and different moves we could be seeing from the Kansas City Chiefs front office. So obviously stay tuned right here and smash that subscribe button. On the road to 300 subscribers, we are almost there. Let's hit this 300 mark for this Super Bowl. Again, film breakdowns coming your way, so hit that bell to stay notified if I do go live or whenever I post something. And smash that like button, especially if you're still here right now after this podcast, listening to me and EDJ ramble. I greatly appreciate it. I know he does as well, too. And we enjoy putting out this content and just talking Chiefs football. Looking to build a community right here on YouTube of Chiefs fans and just football fans in general, because either way, I know we get a little hostile here and there with our fandoms, but I do enjoy just talking football in general. And this season has been another fun one, and to think that the Chiefs have the chance to do something that no other team has ever done. Just warms my heart. So I know a lot of people don't like that and are hoping on the Chiefs' downfall on Sunday. So let us know in the comments. Let us know in the comment section who you are selecting to win this game and what you think is going to go down. And we'll see you in the next podcast.